Welcome to Big Ideas Small Business. And today we are going to talk about why it's necessary for us to look at digital detox. We'll be back in a minute.
You're tuned in to Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano. Doreen brings energy, focus, and creativity with the most cutting-edge tools and systems needed to grow business, drive profits, and achieve dreams. Ready to rise? Here's your host, Doreen Milano.
Welcome, everyone. And today we are going to be talking to Seneca and Sean from Keep Me In Remembrance, KMIR. And we're going to be talking about digital detox and the importance of it as we look at our lives and how we tend to disengage because we're looking at this little box in front of us, right? And so I wanted to start today with a little story. I grew up on sailboats. I mean, we had a regular house, but every weekend we were sailing, we were racing yachts, we were doing other things. And in the middle of the ocean, there is no cell phone, there's no TV, there is no nothing except for a ship to shore if you get in trouble. But I learned more about the ocean, what lives in it, and how to actually work a sailboat. And I didn't have a cell phone to rely on. Mm-hmm. So in your program of KMIR and the Digital Detox, tell us more about what that's really about.
Yeah, thank you. So KMIR, KMIR, is an acronym that means Keep Me In Remembrance. And we have several different campaigns. One of them is the Social Media List Challenge. And wrapped up in the Social Media List Challenge are the Digital Detox. So essentially, the Social Media List Challenge is encouraging humans to reduce their social media footprint for 3 days and replace that time with something more healthy and beneficial. So maybe that's going on date nights or spending more time with your family or deepening your spiritual practice or your health. So we've wrapped that challenge into a fun exercise. We've been able to identify that a lot of these different challenges before were very heavy and like clinical, and this is a little bit more light and fun. So Digital Detox is the framework around the Social Media List Challenge.
That is great. One of the things that I noticed even as an adult, you know, my fun time was at the beach. Mm-hmm. I lived at the beach. I lived in near Capitola, California. I was in Santa Cruz. And so when I had a few minutes, I'd head over to the yacht club and talk to people about sailing and, you know, learning more about what was going on in the area. But it was all about engaging and connecting with people. And that's really the message behind all this, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. We were just having a talk, I think off camera, about musical therapy, but just therapy period. And one of the things that I was speaking about is that the most sophisticated technology that we have as humans is the human spirit. And I think that it's easy to forget that in such a digital, sophisticated world. And this concept that we have is not taking the place of social media. Social media is here. Right. We're just simply here to create a space and complement social media by bringing what we call H2H, which is human-to-human connections, and getting people back into that authentic space and creating a safe space for people to be able to do that. Because we spoke a few months ago, there's a lot of guilt that comes with the attachment to the devices and the attachment to social media. So when you bring up the subject matter, people kind of shut down. Sometimes people get defensive and we're like, wait, look, like we're all going through this. This is just an opportunity to create a space. And we've been able to identify that people want to have the conversation if it's created right. So that's where the Digital Detox came into the picture.
One of the things I noticed is my youngest son lives on his cell phone. He's a pilot and he uses cell phone as a tool for flights, and he uses it as a communication tool, and he uses it as an entertainment device. So he gets a little irritated when I don't immediately respond to a text. Mm-hmm. And I don't. You know, when my day is done, my phone is plugged into charge and it's next to my computer and that door is closed and I've walked away.
Yeah.
And so he's gotten in the habit, if he needs to really talk to me, he texts my husband. But
Yeah.
the whole point of this is to start talking to people and not communicating completely through your device.
Yeah, completely on the devices. I personally, I do have a Facebook page, but I'm hardly ever on there, right? I don't do social media. That's just a personal preference for me. Not everyone can do that, and that's completely okay. We have had to create some more diversified marketing strategies since we're not on social media, which makes our job kind of difficult sometimes, but I have learned to do things that feel good to me and are aligned with a certain, just a fabric. But you're right, getting back to that human connection is super, super important. And I tell people, half jokingly, that my hero is Willy Wonka, right? So that just kind of puts the framework as far as who I am. But something that I started doing at networking meetings or when I meet people for coffee is something called Aikialia, right? So that's part of the digital detox conversation that we have. And Aikialia is a acronym that means, if you break down the word, I know you and I love you anyway, right? So Aikialia, if you break that down letter by letter, is I know you and I love you anyway. And I would sit down at coffee shops with people after the first time meeting them at a network event, and I'll just say, let's just play Aikialia before we continue. And basically, it's just spending about 30 seconds to share something with me and vice versa that's slightly past the comfort zone that you would normally share in a super sophisticated setting that you're comfortable with, right? And just break that human barrier just a little bit and get vulnerable. And each time you do it, you connect on a human level before you even talk anything about business. And people are thirsty for that. So these are the opportunities that we like to create.
I think something also you'd mentioned a second ago, like looking at people's, you're looking at people's social media. And I think a lot of us, I'm not really on social media anymore, I've kind of backed off personally. That's my own preference. But I notice I would be following people's lives, but not engaging. It's like, oh, what are my friends doing? It's like, oh, that's cool. That's how they're living. But I don't think there's that human-to-human connection that's missing.
Yeah.
So when we look at how we're choosing to live our lives today, what are the things that you would suggest that we use as practices to create more of that human connection?
Yeah, so to create more of a human connection, I would energetically answer that question by saying it needs to be a lifestyle. It needs to be authentic. If you're looking for and I'm not suggesting that you were, but just in general, if you're looking for workshop bullet points about how to do this or that, that's fine, and that's going to get you a certain level of success. But I tell people, I work with a lot of youth. I'm a personal trainer at a gym near downtown. I do fitness, mindfulness, and meditation. And I teach this promise-keeping concept. And I tell people success is more than just a dollar amount. It's more than just meeting someone. It's about waking up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and being okay with your reflection, right? That's where true success begins. So when you ask me, how do we deepen that connection, we're talking about heart changes. We're talking about new perspectives. We're talking about actually embodying something. I have a bunch of terms and concepts, and one of them is ABP model. ABP model is as a byproduct training, not something to do, but a person to become. And when you do that, as a natural byproduct, organically, those connections will begin to take place because you yourself is different. So it's going to be different for each person, so you have to start at your core. And some of the things would be meditation, what you read, the people that you speak with, the type of conversations that you do have to input that information inside of you.
Yeah, and when you and I originally met, it was at a networking event. Mm-hmm. And I was really drawn to you from the standpoint that the message was really important, but I also saw a huge benefit to the business populace, because I believe that too many businesses are focused on, making sure that their ranking in social media is the right ranking, and they're not connecting They're chasing what Google's doing, what my previous guest was talking about, right? And when we really talk about the social connections, I walk into a lot of businesses where the social connection is between me and the owner of the business, but the rest of the employees have no clue what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would see this as a real benefit within the business world to start with.
Yeah, you really actually put a great idea into our subconscious. We talked about it in our business meeting, because originally I'm starting to do this with youth. Spiritual centers. I teach at a few spiritual centers here in Dallas, and really reaching out to the community, how a spiritual leader can use this for their congregation to pull off collectively to go deep in their spiritual practice or do community service is what I was thinking. And then you introduced that in the business world, which is always good. And I do think there is some space for that. And we are developing ways to be able to introduce that to a company. But just as we're speaking about business real quick, how a company or influencer could leverage the social medialess challenge H2H concept. So say you have an influencer and you're heavily on social media and you're working with your community and you have a product or service. Well, you could use this by speaking to your community on social media, and you have a product, whatever that may be, and they all reduce their social media footprint or pull off for 3 days with you, and you give them some homework or an assignment to do with your particular product or service to engage with the community. And they do that collectively. And then after the 3 days, you come back and you can discuss and talk about it. This creates a very unique way to engage with your customer base that you don't really see happening that often, right? And I do think that your community can appreciate that more because it's connecting on a more human level, right?
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah,
I really do.
Those are some ways that you can actually use this concept because, again, we're not anti-social media.
Right.
This is just a tool.
Well, I think especially during the last few months, people have become isolated. They're having a harder time connecting. I think one of the things that's gone on is that sometimes we've forgotten how to engage. Mm-hmm. We've forgotten how to have that conversation. We don't know that it's okay to break into a clique of 3 or 4 people and say, oh, that sounds really interesting. Can you tell me more?
Yeah.
And start yourself to be part of that conversation. Mm-hmm. I think people have lost some of those tools.
Yeah, we definitely have it. And of course, younger people more so than the middle-aged and older community, but it is widespread. One thing that I've probably gained the most, and I'll be quiet here in a second, I want you to throw some stuff in, but just from a straight networking and human connection standpoint, one thing that I've definitely gained the most, and this isn't really like a social media thing, it's just a human thing, past actually the product or service, I have sat down with so many people in this past 2 years that I would have normally never spoken to in any regular situation, people that did not look like me, didn't come from my background, and we sit down and we have an hour-long conversation, 2-hour-long conversation over coffee, right? And it's so beautiful. And that right there, I want to further mine that and create opportunities for people that may look like me, right, to engage with other people that don't look like me, to create more opportunity. That's something that, as we talk about networking, we don't talk about enough as far as, I know what you do, but who are you as a human, right? And let's connect there first. We have this thing that make people uncomfortable sometimes in network meetings, but it's called hugs or high fives. I don't do handshakes. I like to do hugs and high fives, and you get a choice, right? And that just breaks up that routine of what we're supposed to be doing and connecting in a more intimate level.
That's beautiful.
The hugs and high fives definitely, that was prior to COVID, but it definitely brings a different energy to the table of like, okay, this is a little more intimate than just like my 30-second spiel that we hear so often. But back to social media, I was thinking, as business owners, I think the hardest thing is you have a tool that's supposed to help you, but then this tool is like bringing you down. I know you've spoken about this, like I want to spend 5 minutes and outsource that to somebody else. And I think being real mindful as a business owner is not letting the tool control you and being able to use the tool to help you. So I think we've identified that specifically as a company, but not demonizing social media, but it's like, how can you use it in a productive way?
And see, so we have another business partner. Her name is Sean. She actually was in California, so she couldn't make it. And she has a wonderful program called We the Women that we can talk about later. Are we about to wrap up for a break?
We need to go to a break.
Cool.
So let's go ahead and take that break. And we'll be back in a moment, and we're going to talk about Sean and California. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? Or spending late nights and covering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after 4 masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Business runs on technology, and human beings are creatures of habit. Unfortunately, not all our habits are good. Technology, when it works, is supposed to make our lives easier, creating routines that allow us to protect customer data, track our progress, forecast the future, communicate better, and move much faster. So, you need technology solutions that work when you're not working, or simply not paying attention. Smart technology solutions, making the complicated uncomplicated.
Welcome back. I'm Doreen Milano, and we've got Seneca and Sean that we have as guests from KMIR, Keep Me In Remembrance, and we are going to talk about their third partner, who is also named Sean. And she is in California currently.
She actually just came back from California.
Okay.
Yeah, she was there for a few days, so she wasn't able to make it. But Sean, she is a female partner that we have in the business.
Spells it the same way as I do, has the same birthday as I, no coincidence. It's ironic.
So I've been knowing Sean for several years, this Sean, and we met the other Sean recently, and just coincidentally, she has the same name that's spelled the same way with the exact same birthday. So I don't know, maybe we're all supposed to be linked up.
It sounds like it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah, for sure. So she has a program within the Social Media List Challenge called We the Women. And basically, it is a program that is a women empowerment program due to the body shaming and negative effects of social media that she has experienced. It's a mentorship for women by women to help women in that particular space. So as a nonprofit, KMIR, we are a nonprofit, we have bars of soap that we sell along with our challenge. And the idea, KMIR, Keep Me In Remembrance, is that when you purchase the bar of soap, Social Media List soap, you make a promise, because we're all about keeping promises. We do promises over goals. Promises are more intimate. And if you haven't noticed, we're a very intentional company, right?
Right.
So when you buy the soap, you use the soap to stay in remembrance of the promise that you made. And each bar of soap that you purchase will be donated to a youth or a teen to take the challenge as well. So that's an initiative that we have going on.
That's beautiful. So as KMIR moves forward, what is the goal, the bigger goal for the business, and how do you want to see this challenge taken on? Because this is a big deal.
Yeah, a big deal broken up into small steps. So, Basically, you can go on our website, KMIR.life, and actually go through the challenge. We're in the process of revamping our website and so forth and so on, but that's how you can go through the experience. KMIR as a whole, the company, the vision for that is at my gym, which is good co-working about a half a mile from Deep Ellum. I just worked with Cafe Momentum, which is a restaurant here in Dallas that takes juvenile students and takes them through a 12-month program to train them in the restaurant industry. And then Ruthie's is a food truck that takes those graduates and allows them to go into more entrepreneur type skills. So I'm going to be working with both of those organizations this year. And we have the Promise program I'll be teaching with them. I just did a podcast for the DFW Veterans Chamber of Commerce the other day where I'm also working with veterans who have kind of gotten off track, who have forgotten who they are, to help them stay in remembrance of who they are by making promises to themselves. So going back into these different communities is what we envision KMIR to do, overall. But as far as the social media challenge, you see this 70 million. The aspiration, that's a representation of 1% of the global population. And we want 70 million people to do the challenge globally. We do believe that as this thing gets rolling, we can get more people to start to do it and spread the message.
I think that's great. When we look at this challenge, there are so many people that are addicted. I mean, literally addicted to their phones and their social media. How do we involve as other people? How do we involve people that are literally addicted to their phone? I mean, I have a girlfriend who the phone is never out of her hand. Even if she's at a restaurant with other people, the phone is right next to her. And she will get a text and she will stop mid-sentence to address the text and leave the conversation of the people that are around her.
Yeah. People do not do anything that they do not find value in. Simple as that. So as it relates to how do you get people to pull from that, it has to be valuable. People have to see the value in it. And then a close second is that it can't be too heavy. We kind of joke and say that, social media is an addiction and we are kind of like a gateway solution, right? Just something soft, nothing too heavy to give people an opportunity to step into it, make it kind of fun. So the Digital Detox, which we're going to be launching here in the fall, is designed specifically for that. It's to get groups of people in a fun, engaging way. I don't know how many people have seen the movie Fight Club, right? But it's a very good movie. You should check it out. This is kind of where the bar of soap came from, right? And we want to get other people to start doing their own digital detox in their own unique ways. And we have different things that are incorporated into the digital detox that, again, make it fun and engaging. Because what I know, though we are very addicted to our devices, I've talked to too many people who want to talk about it if the space is created. So we just put it out there and make it organic. And we have faith in the concept enough that it will be exactly what it's supposed to be.
I think I'll just kind of add to that. It's just by creating the value. If somebody sees it's valuable for them and they share it with somebody that they care about, like, hey, give it a try. Just like literally try it and see what you think. And that value can compound, I think, over time. Yeah,
and that's a good point because it's like I'm into the fitness world. So it's getting trainers to use the social media challenge or the promise idea, and actually their clients benefit from staying off of social media for 3 days and maybe getting that diet started. And then this is what social media did for me. Now it changes the whole conversation. I was talking with my son, who's 10, and I was like, hey, I got this, your dad got this social media challenge going on. He's like, whatever. Like, I'm not even trying to hear that, right? But I explained to him he likes baseball, and he's working on his pitching. So I said, hey, look, let's reduce for 3 days off of social media and just specifically work on your pitches so you can get better. And when I said it, like, the light bulb went off. He was like, oh, like, this is how I can leverage it. So we tell people the challenge really isn't about social media at all. It's about giving you the gift of time. That's what it's really about, right? So just getting people to see the value in it.
I think that is a brilliant connection because we all need more time. We all need to have that ability to create more time and space within our lives. And it's difficult to do that when we're so entrenched in taking care of this little box that sits on our desk.
Yeah.
It makes it really difficult. I also think that there's another piece to this puzzle that I think is really important, and I think that piece is this. When, as a business owner, you choose to create space for yourself personally, having this discussion about turning off social media, or in my case, hiring it out, so I'm not dealing with it at all. Somebody else is dealing with it. I've given them, what I want to see happen, but they run with it, and they run with it for 2 or 3 months at a time. I don't have to think about it, and then they come back to me and go, "Oh, wait, what's next?"
Yeah.
But I think the big part of this is making sure that we are taking personal responsibility for who we are and how we move through this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a word that I like to use a lot is basically just reframing. I mean, that's really what you're doing, is you're basically reframing, but actually applying it to your life. So like when I do fitness, for an example, I tell people this has really little to do with working out at all. This is really about self-love. That's like really what we're doing right now. And when you change the vocabulary, so now me doing 100 squats and 100 push-ups isn't just kicking my butt. It's really about self-love and keeping promises. It changes the whole concept. So when we start to talk about personal development and being successful, and begin to break things down from the aspect that you're speaking about of actually pouring into myself so that I can be better, it's basically an investment. But investments are boring sometimes. They're time consuming. We don't really like to do investments, though we know that they're very, very beneficial. So it really is making a personal investment inside of yourself. Anything you want to add to that?
No, it's pretty spot on.
Okay, so from my perspective, it's really easy. It's time to go to the beach, right?
Cool. Yeah.
It's time to go out and do things without that thing we call a cell phone. And, when I go to the beach and I went sailing, the cell phone was always left at home because I didn't need it. And it would get ruined. And there's a lot of other reasons. But it's about going to the beach. It's about going to the yacht club and seeing all my buddies at the yacht club. It's about going and doing a barbecue on the beach. It's about doing other things that involve other people. It's not about turning off your social media and then sitting in front of the TV.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not what it's about.
And when we talk about the value of this, we haven't really got into any of the back end of the documentaries like The Social Dilemma, right? There's also one like Social Child 2.0, when they're really talking about the back end and what they're really doing with social media behind the scenes. So that's a whole nother conversation. I think I see her telling us to wrap it up.
So we're going to take a moment here and we're going to take a break. We're going to talk to our sponsors. Mm-hmm. They're very important to us, and we'll be right back.
My American dream is to help you stay healthy and energized so you can live your American dream.
Our American dream is equipping future generations of American dreamers.
My American dream is to protect my community so they can live their American dream.
My American dream is to bring you some spice and flavor to your life.
Our American dream is ensuring what's most valuable to you.
Our American dream is creating opportunities for healthcare providers so they can have their American dreams.
My American dream is serving our business community and advocating for all of your American dreams.
Business runs on technology, and human beings are creatures of habit. Unfortunately, not all our habits are good. Technology, when it works, is supposed to make our lives easier, creating routines that allow us to protect customer data, track our progress, forecast the future, communicate better, and move much faster. So, you need technology solutions that work when you're not working or simply not paying attention. Smart technology solutions, making the complicated uncomplicated.
Welcome back. And now is the time that we are going to go to our audience and ask questions of Seneca and Sean. And let's take the audience question.
So I'm curious, as I've been listening to this, why do you guys care about this? And how did you get started doing it? Where did this come from?
All right. That's a heavy question with a lot of background. I'm gonna make it concise as possible. And I was wondering how I wanted to answer this, and the best way to answer is honestly. I have spent most of my adult life in federal and state prison, right? I came home and turned my life around, so forth, so forth, so forth. I got on Facebook. Before I went in, Facebook wasn't even a thing. I did 9+ years, right? And I got on Facebook and built a community, and I started meeting people, and I found out that it was very pseudo. It wasn't real. And there's a story about if you put a frog in warm water and gradually warm it up, it would be desensitized to it. But if you put it in hot water, it's going to jump out. Well, I felt like that frog in hot water, and everyone had been kind of desensitized. It just wasn't authentic. And because of who I had become through my practice in meditation, I was very sensitive to that, right? So I said, I just don't really want to be on there, right? And it was this big thing when I said it, and I was just, kind of like this oddball. And then I started having conversation. I would talk to people who had been off for a week or two, and they would consistently say the same thing. Oh, I'm just doing a small little detox, and it's the best thing that happened to me, right? And so I kept going, and having a business mind, I recognized there's a void here. You say there's not a lot of money in what we're doing. I disagree. There's a huge void in this space. The pendulum just hasn't swung the other way. If you remember YouTube, when YouTube first came out, people thought people were crazy posting these free videos. Like, what are you doing? You should sell your content, right? Now that pendulum is slowly starting to swing the other way. We just haven't seen it yet. Closed networks, there's one called Mighty Network. It's a closed network. These closed networks, there's another one that you turned us on to as well. What's the name of it?
Discord.
Discord. These closed networks and closed communities where you can actually control your own content, control your own community, and you're not being pushed to and fro by these outside entities, are going to be more common as time goes on. So what I see, when you ask the question, there's no money in it, you just don't see it yet, but it's there.
I think that's an amazing way to answer that. And I really applaud you for moving from where you were to where you are today.
Thank you.
It's a huge accomplishment. And I don't think enough people understand what it takes for that movement to happen for one individual or even a community of individuals. It takes a lot of people to really support what you're up to allow you to make that movement. So I really want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So how do we get a hold of you guys? How do we engage in a way that, we can take on the challenge, or we can talk to our companies about taking on the challenge, or we can talk to our community groups about taking on the challenge?
You can, you can find us at KMIR.life. All our contact info.
KMIR.life.
KMIR.life,
Okay.
You can find us there. And then our email is going to be
hello at KMIR.life, LIFE. You can contact us there. I have a show coming up at SMU this fall. Be open to speak with you guys about that as well. And
is that a podcast or a TV show?
No, it's actually going to be an in-person live show.
Oh, great.
I'm going to be doing something at SMU with something called Arts of Oppression. I'm also going to be speaking at the Compassion Conference September the 18th in Richardson as well. I was selected to be a speaker with that. So I have a few speaking engagements coming up that if you want to know more about that, you can connect with us via website or personally.
That's wonderful. And I really want to see you continue this cause because I think it's needed. I think there's a lot of people that need to shift their perspective for 3 days and really understand what they can gain out of that 3 days.
Yeah.
And I know we didn't go deep into this, and there's a lot more beyond this, but I think this is a good scratch on the surface.
Thank you, thank you. And the last thing is how you know that it's really a thing is that it's just 3 days. I mean, it's 3 days. If I were to say like a challenge for a year, but it's just 3 days. So surely you can do something for 3 days. Thank you.
So thank you. It has been a pleasure to have you here, both of you.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate your openness and your forthcoming attitude with regards to putting this out there for the world to enjoy. So thank you. The fact is, business has changed. Engagement has changed. And for us to recover our businesses and our communities, we have to engage differently. If you want to have a serious conversation about engagement, community, and your business, call me, Doreen Milano, Visions to Excellence. I'm an executive coach. You can reach me at 650-483-5798 or contact me online at v2e.biz. That's capital V, number 2, E.biz. Let's have a conversation.
This has been Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano. Doreen Milano solves problems for small and mid-market family-owned businesses and service-based industries. To work with Doreen, go to v2e.biz. For guest and sponsorship information, call 650-483-5798. Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano is produced by Offbeat Business Media for the OBBM Network. For OBBM Network programming information, call 214-714-0495. Unauthorized use of any part of Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano without prior permission through the OBBM network is strictly prohibited.